We are in the Aylmer sector of Gatineau, Quebec. This is my garden. It's only been there for me for about 5 years. We're at the front of my alpine garden, also called a crevice garden, where I grow many small plants. My father bought me a book on perennial gardening, and that kind of got me hooked. From there on, that was pretty much it. Became my main hobby. I really became addicted, I guess I would say, in a good way. For the alpines in the front, what I did basically was I started placing the rocks in sand. You're recommended to have sort of mounds of sand. It's a sharp draining sand. You place them in, you get them quite close as possible, really, and you have to sort of like really fill in a lot of sand. So I would be putting sand and then water and then sand and water and then packing them as close together as possible, and then adding gravel on top, because the idea is to have a very small plant that can have a root that's going to go way down in between the crevices, and that's where they get their nutrients. They're never fertilized. So basically they get their nutrients more from minerals. Spring is one of the best times, especially May, for this kind of garden. This is one of my favorite little rock garden plants that comes from a mountainous area called Dryas, and it kind of spreads around. It's having a very good year this year. It's quite a unique little plant. It kind of grows as a ground cover, but in the spring it gets these lovely little yellow flowers, pale yellow flowers. Further back here I have my crevice islands, I call them, that I built a few years ago, where I put in various plants. You can see back there my first one. There's a very, very large Daphne there. The Daphnes, I would say, are really particular to, say, a crevice garden or an alpine garden. And they come and they're like, they're like this big. To me, those are really fascinating plants. I think that's what really got me into really planting up the crevice garden and trying to find the right plants for it. These are other crevices I put in a few years ago. I use various materials. I get rocks from construction sites, but you can see here I used part of an old bird bath, so that kind of thing works. And I try to fill in cracks here. I'm trying to really get the Sempervivums to kind of grow and clump together. So the hens and chicks, I like the way they look. I like the way they fill in, and they can give a nice colorful look to the garden all through the year. They stay all winter. Everything here stays all winter, everything. These are a good example of little alpine tulips, or what are called botanical tulips. I really like them. They look like little roses. They come from, say, Turkey, Middle East mainly. Those are kind of like the original tulips that other tulips have been hybridized from. They're maybe 6 inches high. I really like those. They do come from a rocky environment, so of course they stay small. Some of the tulips I have that are taller, they're not especially species ones, and I still love them, so I'll move them to another part of the garden, and I likely will try to find more species tulips, because those really are my favorite. This is a native plant called Prairie smoke. It's blooming now, but later on its seed head will come out and they look like little puffs of smoke, so it's a very pretty little plant. This is just really flowering right now, and unfortunately I do not remember the name of it, but it's obviously a lovely ground cover. We have Pulsatilla in the garden. That's a real favorite for rock gardens especially. I believe they originally are European or kind of from the Middle East. They come out with these lovely purple or white blooms in the spring. Usually they're definitely a mid-May kind of thing. They often go to these very decorative seed heads over here, like this one. This is a white Pulsatilla. Lots of tulips still, small tulips, and they intergrow among the rocks. Dwarf iris come up this time of year as well. We have Phlox, which is a real favorite for rock gardens. This is kind of a more compact phlox. It won't spread out as much, and it's quite easy to transplant too, which is nice. And it's very good in a crevice garden. You can just sort of stuff it right in there between the rocks. As long as it has a good sized stem, they flower beautifully. More tulips, more botanicals, and there are quite a few varieties of them. They're not easy to find. The ones that I think a lot of people know are the Tulipatarda, which are very pretty with yellow leaves. They come back every year. In fact, they will naturalize and spread out quite a bit. I have even found, though, honestly, with the taller tulips, that they also are coming back every year. So that's why I'm probably going to have to divide them and move them into another spot. You don't really need to do anything to them. You just plant them around it. They can't be in a crevice because, of course, the bulbs have to grow out and expand. And it often, because of the rocks and the fact that they don't have a richer soil, they stay small. I also have a fair amount of Bergenia in the garden. They're not necessarily an alpine plant, but they're great in a condition like that. They flower beautifully. I like the contrast of the big leaves. They have been sometimes grown into groups, really, really large groups, so they do have to be divided every couple of years. Basically, I try to keep everything from, say, this Alberta spruce down, I try to keep in fairly lean conditions. Also, an important part of alpine gardening are conifers. You'll see that there are little sort of bun-like Sempervivums, that type of thing that you put in there. I have some little mini pines as well. So nothing that's going to grow too large, obviously. But I have amended the soil in the front, of course. For the rock garden, I had to bring in sand and gravel and rocks to do that. Like if I had just used, say, topsoil underneath, they wouldn't have worked. You have to bring in leaner soil. I'd never water the garden unless there's a really awful drought. The only other time that I water is when I'm first constructing the crevice itself, or when I've got a new plant and it's just tiny bits, because I mean the plants are, the plants you put in are very, very small, right? It is a really good garden for climate change, yeah, because it doesn't require watering. It's also great if you have a very exposed area, a very dry exposed area, it works really well. The main work is in the fall. You need to pick the leaves, like the dead leaves that have fallen from the trees around, and keep them off, because I don't want anything kind of deteriorating or rotting into the soil and giving them extra nutrients. When I come outside in the garden, I'm pretty absorbed. I don't think about anything else. If I've had a stressful day, it's the best thing is to come outside in the garden and work, and I find it extremely satisfying if I've gotten something done during the day, even if it's just cleaning up a bed but it's also, for me, it's always been a creative pursuit. You plan a garden, right? You have an idea in your head, but I mean, really it's the plants that make the garden. It's not really me. I mean, it's something will turn out a certain way and I'll say, okay, that's great. I really like that.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sometime in the Garden. To join in on the conversation, click like and subscribe.